The restraints cut into Elias Vey's wrists as two Dominion soldiers dragged him across the landing deck of the warship Valkyr. The ship was enormous, scarred and old. Its armored walls carried blackened streaks where weapons had struck them. Somewhere deep inside, machinery groaned with the slow rhythm of an injured animal. One soldier stopped beside a sealed hatch. "Human prisoner transferred," he said. The hatch opened. Captain Serah Veyra stood waiting. She was taller than Elias by several centimeters, dressed in dark command armor, fitted closely to an athletic frame. Long black hair fell over one shoulder, contrasting with the pale, unusual tone of her skin. Her eyes were sharp and steady, studying him with the detached attention of someone examining equipment. Elias looked past her. "Where's your engine room?" The soldiers exchanged glances. Serah's expression barely moved. "You have been sentenced to death. I heard. You are not here to ask questions." "I still need to know where your engine room is." One of the soldiers struck Elias across the ribs. He staggered, caught himself against the wall, and slowly straightened. Serah's gaze dropped to his hands. He hadn't tried to defend himself. He hadn't even looked angry. "Leave us," she said. The soldiers hesitated. "Captain, leave." The hatch closed behind them. Silence settled between the two. Serah approached until only a few steps separated them. "You are the last confirmed human alive. That's what your government says." Her eyes narrowed. "You doubt it?" "I doubt governments." A faint movement touched one corner of her mouth, gone almost before Elias could be sure he had seen it. "You have been told what this assignment means. Punishment ship, high casualty rate, minimal chance of survival. Then you understand your circumstances." Elias glanced down at the restraints. "I understand somebody spent a lot of credits transporting a prisoner they expect to die." Serah studied him for several seconds. "You were once a military officer." "Yes." "You lost your rank." "Yes." "You refused interrogation." "Yes." "You killed 3 Dominion soldiers during your capture." "They were going to execute civilians." "That is not a denial." "No." Something changed in Serah's eyes. Not sympathy. Interest. She turned toward the corridor. "Walk." The restraints were removed. Elias rubbed his wrists and followed. The Valkyr's interior was worse than its exterior. Panels had been replaced with mismatched sections of metal. Cables ran beneath transparent conduits. Several ceiling lights flickered. Elias slowed. Serah noticed. "What? Your power distribution is unstable. Our engineers are aware." "No, they aren't." She stopped. Elias pointed toward a maintenance panel. Someone bypassed a damaged regulator. They routed the load through auxiliary conduits. "Yes, that conduit is overheating." Serah stared at him. "How would you know that?" "Your lights are pulsing every 11 seconds. She looked toward the ceiling. The lights pulsed. Once, twice. Her expression hardened. "You have been aboard this ship for less than 3 minutes." "I've been watching ships since I was 12, they continued. Serah led him toward a small holding chamber near the command section. "You will remain here until we enter the Veyran frontier." "How long?" 6 days. Elias looked through the narrow observation window. The ship's crew moved quickly through the corridor. None looked at him for long. "What's wrong with them?" Serah paused. "What do you mean?" "They're scared." "They have reason to be." "Of the enemy?" "Of failure." Elias looked at her. "That usually means the enemy isn't the biggest problem." For the first time, Serah seemed genuinely irritated. "You presume much for a prisoner. And you hide much for a captain." Her jaw tightened. Then she opened the chamber door. Inside, Elias stepped through. Before the door closed, he looked at her again. "You should replace that regulator." "We will. Do it before we leave." The door sealed. Serah remained outside for several seconds. Then she turned toward the command deck. "Chief Engineer," she said into her communicator. A tired voice answered. Yes, Captain. Check auxiliary regulator 7. Silence. Then, why? Because our prisoner noticed it. Another silence. The engineer laughed once. That human? Serah looked back at the sealed chamber. Yes. The ship shuddered. Every light went dark. A second later, emergency alarms screamed through the corridor. Serah's head snapped toward the ceiling. Her communicator erupted with overlapping voices. Captain! External contacts! How many? Unknown. They're moving too fast. Bridge shields are offline. Port weapons aren't responding. The Valkyr lurched violently. Elias was thrown against the wall inside his cell. Metal screamed somewhere beyond the door. Serah grabbed a railing and stayed upright. Another impact slammed through the ship. The chamber door buckled. Serah ran toward it. Open! The mechanism failed. She struck the manual release. Nothing. Inside, Elias heard the alarms, the distant shouting, and the grinding of metal. He looked at the sealed door, then at the emergency panel beside him. He smiled faintly. 6 days, he muttered. A third explosion shook the Valkyr. Elias tore the emergency panel from the wall. Sparks sprayed across the floor. The emergency controls were built around a system he had never seen, but the principles were familiar. Power, pressure, containment. Elias stripped a length of insulated wire from the panel and connected 2 terminals. The cell door clicked. He pushed it open. Serah turned sharply. What are you doing? Leaving. You're under arrest. Your ship is under attack. I noticed. Another blast threw her against the bulkhead. Elias crossed the corridor, caught her by the arm, and pulled her clear as a section of ceiling collapsed where she had been standing. She stared at his hand around her wrist. He released her. Now, he said, show me the bridge. Serah's breathing was suddenly harder. Not from fear. She pointed toward the smoke-filled passage. This way. They ran. Behind them, the Valkyr began to break apart. Neither knew the battle had killed officers who could stop him. By the time they reached command, Elias would be the only person able to save them. The bridge doors were half open when Serah reached them. Smoke poured through the gap. Stay behind me, she ordered. Elias ignored her. He slipped through first. The command deck looked as though a giant hand had crushed it. Consoles sparked along the walls. One tactical officer lay motionless beneath a broken display. A section of the forward viewport had cracked into a web of pale lines. Serah stopped. Commander? No answer. She moved toward the central station. Report! A surviving officer lifted his head. Captain, we have 3 hostile vessels. Shields are down to 30%. Port batteries are offline. Navigation is... The ship rolled. Everyone grabbed something. Elias remained standing. Navigation is what? The officer swallowed. Locked. By what? We don't know. Elias stepped toward the main display. Serah caught his shoulder. You don't touch my systems. Then your ship dies. Her fingers tightened. For one brief moment, they stared at each other. Then another impact struck. Serah released him. Fix it. Elias moved. He crouched beside the navigation console and examined the diagnostic feed. Alien symbols streamed across the display. He didn't understand every symbol. He understood the pattern. Your navigation computer is receiving false orientation data. The tactical officer laughed weakly. You cannot read our system. No. Then how? The numbers are changing in a repeating sequence. Elias pointed. Your computer thinks the ship is rotating. Serah looked at the display. The artificial horizon was drifting. Can you correct it? Probably. Probably. I'm working with an alien computer while being shot at. The next impact answered for him. Elias pulled open the lower panel. Chief Engineer. A voice crackled through the emergency channel. Captain, we're losing containment. Get to the navigation core. Why? Because I need someone who understands the hardware. The engineer hesitated. I'm coming. Elias turned towards Serah. Get everyone off the bridge, except essential crew. She stared at him. You are giving orders again. Yes. You are not my officer. No. Then why should I obey you? Elias pointed toward the forward display. A hostile vessel appeared. Its weapons were charging. Because in 6 seconds that ship fires. Serah looked. The targeting indicators flashed. Everyone, brace! The bridge shook. Weapons fire struck the forward shields. Elias waited. 1 second. 2. 3. Now. Serah moved instantly. Hard starboard. The pilot hesitated. Captain? Do it. The Valkyr turned. A second volley passed beneath them. Elias watched the enemy ship's movement. They're compensating. For what? Our turn. He reached across the console. Reverse thrust. The pilot looked at Serah. She nodded. The Valkyr suddenly slowed. The pursuing vessel overshot. Fireport batteries, Elias said. They're offline. Then fire whatever works. The tactical officer stared at him. We have only one forward lance. That's enough. Serah's eyes moved between them. Fire. The weapon discharged. A concentrated beam tore into the enemy ship's exposed flank. Its shields collapsed. The Valkyr passed beneath it. The hostile vessel vanished behind them. Nobody spoke. Then the chief engineer arrived. What happened? Elias pointed toward the navigation core. Your orientation sensor is being spoofed. The engineer examined the readings. His expression changed. By the stars. Can you fix it? Yes. Do it. The engineer moved. Serah remained beside Elias. You knew the enemy would overshoot. I guessed. You risked my ship on a guess. I risked it on an observation. She looked at him. What is the difference? A guess has no evidence. And your evidence? Elias pointed toward the enemy formation. They're using automated pursuit. Serah watched the remaining vessels. They're following our predicted movement. Exactly. A quiet realization crossed her face. They expect us to fly like a Dominion ship. Yes. Elias looked toward her. So don't. The corner of her mouth moved. Then what do you suggest? Something stupid. That is not reassuring. It doesn't need to be. He took the command station. Serah stood beside him. Pilot, Elias said. Take us directly toward them. The pilot stared. Captain? Serah looked at Elias. His expression was calm. Do it. The Valkyr accelerated. Enemy ships turned toward them. Weapons charged. Elias watched the distance collapse. Wait. Serah's hand tightened around the edge of the console. Now. The pilot cut the engines. The Valkyr dropped abruptly. The enemy formation surged past. Elias immediately ordered full thrust. The damaged warship shot between the hostile vessels. Warning alarms screamed. Serah grabbed the command rail as another ship passed close enough to shake the deck. Left! Elias pointed. The pilot turned. A hostile fighter collided with another vessel. The bridge erupted in stunned voices. Elias didn't celebrate. Bring shields back online. The engineer answered. 20% restored. Good. Serah looked at him. You're enjoying this. Elias glanced at her. No. She raised an eyebrow. You are. A faint smile appeared on his face. Maybe a little. She almost smiled herself. Then the ship lurched again. A warning appeared across the central display. Hull breach, Deck 4. Serah's expression hardened. Damage report. The communications officer answered. Deck 4 is flooding with atmosphere. 12 crew trapped. Elias stood. Where's the emergency seal? Manual system. Show me. Serah stepped toward him. I'll go. No. Her eyes sharpened. That sounded like an order. It was. I outrank you. You're also the captain. And, if you're trapped down there, everyone aboard loses their commander. She stared at him. You're suggesting you go instead? Yes. Why? Elias looked at the smoke drifting across the bridge. Because you trusted me with the ship. He walked toward the damaged corridor. Serah followed. I didn't say I trusted you. Elias glanced back. You came with me. For several seconds, she said nothing. Then she accelerated until they walked side by side. The corridor ahead was dark. Serah activated her weapon. Elias looked at it. Planning to shoot me? Considering it. Fair. They entered the damaged section together. The door closed behind them. The battle continued outside. Inside the ship, Elias and Serah disappeared into the smoke. The smoke thickened as Elias and Serah moved deeper into Deck 4. Emergency lights painted the corridor in pulses of red. Stay close, Serah said. I am. You're behind me. That's because you're blocking the corridor. She glanced over her shoulder. Even in the dim light, Elias caught the irritation in her expression. You're remarkably irritating for someone who was nearly executed today. I've had practice. A metallic groan rolled through the ship. The deck shifted beneath their feet. Serah caught the wall. Elias caught her waist. For one suspended second, neither moved. Her armor was warm beneath his hand. Her breath touched his cheek. Then the ship stabilized. Elias released her. Sorry. Serah looked at his hand before meeting his eyes. You're becoming very familiar. Occupational hazard. Your occupation was prisoner. Things change. They reached the damaged section. A blast door had slammed down across the passage. Behind it, someone was pounding. Captain! Serah stepped forward. How many? 12. Any injuries? 2 unconscious. Elias examined the door. There's another access route. Serah looked at him. How do you know? Maintenance conduit. She stared at the wall. There is no conduit. Behind that panel. He removed the panel. A narrow service passage appeared. Serah frowned. How did you see that? The panel is warmer. She shook her head. You notice everything. Mostly things trying to kill me. He climbed inside. Serah followed. The passage was barely wide enough for them. Her shoulder pressed against his back. You could have gone first, she whispered. You're the captain. You keep using that as an excuse. It works. They reached the other side. Elias opened the emergency release manually. The blast door lifted several centimeters. Get them out! Crew members crawled beneath it. Serah helped the injured first. Elias remained at the mechanism, using both hands to keep the door from dropping. Move! A crewman dragged another officer through, then another. The last person stumbled beneath the opening. Elias released the mechanism. The door crashed down. He stepped back, breathing hard. Serah was beside him immediately. You're bleeding. Elias looked down. A piece of metal had sliced his forearm. It's nothing. She caught his wrist. Don't tell a medical officer that. You're not a medical officer that. Tonight, apparently, I am everything this ship needs. She pulled a compact medical kit from her belt. Elias watched her clean the wound. Her movements were careful. You're shaking, he said. Her fingers stopped. I am not. You are. She resumed wrapping the wound. The ship nearly lost 12 people. But it didn't. Because you went into a collapsing section without orders. You followed me. That was a mistake. You're still here. She looked up. Their faces were close. Perhaps I'm making another. The moment stretched. Then an alarm interrupted them. Serah straightened. Bridge. They hurried back. The surviving crew looked toward Elias as he entered. Something had changed. They moved aside for him. Nobody had ordered them to. Elias noticed. Serah noticed too. The chief engineer approached. Captain, we've restored navigation. Shields? 40%. Weapons. 2 batteries. Elias looked at the tactical display. Enemy ships. 2 disabled, 1 retreating. Pursue. Serah turned toward him. You want to chase them? They know our position. If we pursue, we expose ourselves. They'll call reinforcements. The tactical officer hesitated. He's right. Serah looked around the bridge. Everyone was watching Elias. Not her. She should have been angry. Instead, she felt something stranger. Pride. Pursue, she ordered. The Valkyr accelerated. The retreating enemy vessel tried to flee toward a debris field. Elias studied the map. Don't follow it. Serah looked at him. Why? It wants us to. The tactical officer frowned. That's speculation. Elias pointed at the debris field. There's a blind zone behind that moon fragment. Serah examined the sensor data. He could hide there. Exactly. The chief engineer checked another display. There's a second ship. Elias nodded. They were waiting. Serah's eyes narrowed. How did you know? They attacked from 3 directions before. This is the 4th. The hidden vessel emerged. Weapons charged. Elias moved to the command station. Turn 90 degrees. The pilot obeyed. Cut engines. The Valkyr drifted. The enemy fired. Their weapons missed by kilometers. The hidden ship continued forward. Elias waited. Engines. The Valkyr surged. The enemy vessel passed beneath them. Fire. The ship's forward lance struck its exposed reactor housing. The vessel erupted in a silent bloom of debris. The bridge fell quiet. Serah slowly turned toward Elias. You saw all of that from the debris pattern. Yes. How? Elias looked at the stars beyond the damaged viewport. Humans had to learn to see things before they happened. Serah's expression softened. What happened to humanity? The question landed differently than the others. Elias didn't answer immediately. He looked down at his bandaged arm. War. She waited. That isn't enough. It has to be. Her eyes remained on him. You speak about your species like someone attending a funeral. Maybe I am. Something tightened in her chest. She wanted to touch him. Instead, she folded her hands behind her back. The chief engineer interrupted. Captain. Serah turned. Yes? We've received a priority transmission. From Dominion Command? No. The engineer looked confused. It carries an encryption format we've never seen. Elias froze. Serah noticed immediately. What is it? Elias stepped toward the communication station. Play it. The officer activated the transmission. Static filled the bridge. Then a voice emerged. Weak, distorted, but unmistakably human. Elias Vey, if you can hear this, do not trust the Dominion. Elias stopped breathing. The recording continued. They lied about the war. The bridge became utterly silent. Serah looked at Elias. His face had gone pale. The voice spoke again. And if you're aboard the Valkyr, they already know where you are. The transmission ended. Elias stared at the dead console. Serah stepped closer. Elias. He didn't answer. Who was that? His jaw tightened. I don't know. She watched his expression. For the first time since meeting him, she saw genuine fear. Not fear for himself. Fear for someone else. Then every alarm aboard the Valkyr activated at once. The tactical officer looked at his display. Captain! Serah turned. What? Multiple vessels entering the system. How many? The officer's face drained of color. Too many to count. The tactical display filled with markers. Serah stepped toward the screen. How many? More arriving every second. The chief engineer looked at Elias. Are they Dominion? Elias stared at the formation. No. Serah turned sharply. How can you tell? Because the Dominion would surround us. He pointed at the outer edge. These ships are forming a corridor. The tactical officer frowned. For what? Elias looked toward the communications console. For us. A low vibration passed through the deck. The Valkyr's sensors detected another transmission. This time, Serah heard the voice. Valkyr, cut your engines and prepare to receive. The voice was female. Human. Elias closed his eyes. Serah watched him. You know her. I know the voice. Who is she? Someone who should be dead. The transmission repeated. Valkyr, respond. Serah took the communications station. This is Captain Serah Veyra. Identify yourself. Static. Then the woman answered. Captain, I recommend you let the human respond. Serah looked at Elias. He stepped forward. I'm here. The voice changed. For 1 second, there was silence. Then a breath. Elias. His hand tightened. Who are you? You know who I am. I need to hear you say it. Another pause. Commander Mara Ven. Elias stared at the display. Serah watched his face. He looked as though someone had opened an old wound. Mara died on Earth, he whispered. No, the voice replied. They told you she died. The bridge seemed smaller. Elias leaned toward the speaker. And how many? Survivors? Yes. Enough. His eyes closed. Serah stepped closer. What does she mean? Elias looked at her. Humanity survived. Nobody moved. The tactical officer slowly lowered his hands. The chief engineer stared at Elias as if seeing him for the first time. Serah's voice was quiet. You knew. I suspected. You told me you were the last human. I was the last one the Dominion knew about. Her expression hardened. You lied to me. Yes. The answer came immediately. Serah stepped closer. Why? Because if they knew I suspected survivors, they would have killed me before I could find them. You could have told me. I didn't know if I could trust you. Her jaw tightened. You saved my crew. That doesn't mean I trusted you. The words hurt more than she expected. She stepped back. Then why did you save me? Elias looked at her. Because you were there. That isn't an answer. It is. The bridge crew became interested in their consoles. Serah turned away. Get us out of this system. Elias studied the incoming fleet. We can't. Why? They aren't surrounding us. He pointed toward the center of the display. They're protecting us. The communications officer looked up. Captain, we're receiving another signal. Open it. A projection appeared above the central console. A woman stood inside the transmission. Human, older than Elias. Grey streaked her dark hair. Her uniform was unlike anything the Dominion had ever produced. Elias stared. Commander Ven. She nodded. You look terrible. A faint smile crossed Elias's face. You look old. So do you. Serah felt something tighten in her chest. She had never seen Elias smile like that. The older woman looked toward Serah. You must be the captain. I am. You have our thanks. For what? For keeping him alive. Serah's eyes shifted toward Elias. He kept himself alive. Mara smiled. That sounds like him. The projection flickered. Then her expression became serious. You need to leave immediately. The Dominion has identified the signal. How long? 7 minutes. The bridge erupted into motion. Serah began issuing orders. Elias remained still. She noticed. What? He looked at the display. The Dominion didn't send those ships. Mara's face tightened. No. Then who did? Everyone. Serah stared at her. Mara continued. The Dominion's control is collapsing. We have been waiting for proof that humanity survived. Elias looked at Serah. And now they have it. Not just them, Mara said. Every species under Dominion rule intercepted the transmission. Serah's stomach dropped. You broadcast this deliberately. Yes. You used us. We used the only human the Dominion couldn't find. Elias stepped toward the projection. You should have warned me. If we warned you, the Dominion would have detected the communication. He shook his head. You gambled with everyone aboard. So did you. Mara's gaze softened. You always did. The transmission ended. Serah turned toward Elias. You're going to tell me everything. Yes. Now. He looked around. Not here. She understood immediately. Follow me. They entered the commander's private chamber. The door closed. Neither spoke. Serah removed her gloves. You lied. Yes. You manipulated my ship. Yes. You used my crew. No. Her eyes narrowed. No. I never used them. You took command. They followed. You enjoyed it. Elias stepped closer. I enjoyed keeping them alive. Serah's breathing changed. You could have escaped when your cell opened. I could have. Why didn't you? He looked directly into her eyes. Because you were still here. Her expression faltered. That isn't strategic. No. Then what is it? Elias moved closer. I'm not sure anymore. Serah's fingers curled against her palm. You make everything complicated. So do you. She should have stepped away. Instead, she remained. His hand lifted slowly. He stopped before touching her face. Serah closed the remaining distance herself. Their foreheads touched. Neither spoke. The ship trembled around them. The alarm sounded again. Serah opened her eyes. They've arrived! Elias lowered his hand. She caught it. Don't die! His fingers closed around hers. Not planning to. They returned to the bridge together. The tactical display showed the largest fleet either had seen. At its center was a Dominion flagship. The enemy transmission opened. An admiral appeared. His eyes settled on Elias. Human. Elias stepped forward. Yes. The admiral smiled. You were never supposed to survive. Elias looked at Serah. Then at the fleet. I know. The admiral's smile disappeared. Then you understand what happens next. Elias took the command station. Yes. He looked at the crew. Let's make them regret finding us. The Dominion fleet advanced without firing. Serah stood beside Elias at the command station, one hand resting on the rail. How many? She asked. The tactical officer swallowed. 312 confirmed. More entering the system. Elias studied the formation. Open every channel. The communications officer hesitated. Every channel. Every one. Serah looked at him. What are you planning? I'm going to make the Dominion nervous. The transmission opened. Elias faced the cameras. This is Elias Vey, former officer of the United Human Defense. A murmur moved across the bridge. His voice carried beyond the Valkyr. To every Dominion vessel listening, you were told humanity is extinct. You were told humans were monsters. You were told our civilization collapsed because we were defeated. He paused. You were lied to. The Dominion fleet remained silent. Elias continued. We survived. Serah watched the tactical display. Several Dominion ships changed formation. Captain, the tactical officer whispered. Some ships are breaking formation. Elias nodded. They're listening. A Dominion commander appeared on the main screen. You expect us to believe one human? No. Elias leaned toward the transmitter. I expect you to believe your own history. The commander frowned. You know nothing of our history. I know your empire erased records. Silence. I know human colonies disappeared before the war began. I know independent worlds were attacked by fleets carrying false identification. I know your admirals received orders from an authority above the Imperial Council. The commander's expression changed. Elias continued. And I know those orders are still active. The Dominion formation broke. Ships turned away from the flagship. Others raised weapons. The admiral appeared. Enough. Elias looked at him. You're afraid. The admiral's face hardened. Destroy them. The fleet fired. Space erupted. Serah gripped the command rail. Execute the maneuver. Elias nodded. Now, the Valkyr accelerated directly toward the Dominion flagship. Every officer on the bridge stared. The chief engineer looked horrified. "Captain, we're flying into them." Serah's eyes remained on Elias. "I know. Is this really the plan?" "Yes," Elias said. The Valkyr entered the enemy formation. Weapons flashed past them. Shields collapsed to 20%. "Keep going," Elias ordered. The ship shook violently. A warning screamed. "Port engine damaged. Compensate with maneuvering thrusters. We'll lose speed." "We don't need speed." Serah understood. "We need position." Elias looked at her. She smiled. "You're using the flagship as cover." "Exactly." The Valkyr slipped beneath the massive Dominion vessel. Enemy ships could not fire without hitting their own flagship. Serah immediately understood the next move. "Bring the ship around." The pilot turned. The Valkyr emerged behind the flagship. Elias pointed. "Fire everything." The alien crew obeyed. Weapons struck the flagship's exposed engines. The enormous vessel lurched. Its formation collapsed. Serah seized the communications channel. "All Dominion vessels, stand down." No response. She transmitted again. "This is Captain Serah Veyra of the Valkyr. Your command has lied to you. Your soldiers have been used to suppress the truth." A Dominion cruiser broke formation. Then another. Then 10. The admiral's voice thundered through the channel. "Traitors," Serah answered calmly. "No." She looked at Elias. "Witnesses." The admiral ordered the remaining loyal ships to fire. They did, but fewer than half obeyed. The battle changed instantly. Dominion vessels turned against their own formation. The Allied ships surrounding the Valkyr moved forward. For the first time, Serah saw something she had never witnessed in her military career. An empire losing a war before its soldiers understood that the war had ended. "Elias," she said. He looked at her. "What now?" He studied the battlefield. "We stop shooting." She blinked. "What?" "Tell our fleet to cease fire." The tactical officer stared. "They'll regroup." "Maybe. Then why?" Elias looked at the Dominion flagship. "Because surrender has to be a choice." Serah understood. She opened every channel. "This is Captain Serah Veyra. All Allied forces, cease fire." The weapons stopped. Silence spread across the battlefield. The Dominion ships remained motionless. Then one lowered its weapons. Another followed. Weeks later, the first human settlement emerged from concealment. Elias stood at the edge of the observation deck aboard the Valkyr. Below him, hundreds of vessels moved through the stars. Serah approached quietly. "You're leaving?" He turned. "I thought about it." She stopped beside him. "And?" "I don't know where else to go." Her fingers brushed his. "You could stay." Elias looked at her. "Is that an order?" "No." "Good." She stepped closer. "It's a request." He smiled. "That sounds dangerous." "It is." She placed her hand against his chest. His heartbeat quickened beneath her palm. "You saved my ship," she whispered. "You saved my life. You saved my people. You trusted me." She looked into his eyes. "I do." He covered her hand with his. Outside, humanity's hidden fleet moved toward a galaxy that had finally learned the truth. Serah leaned closer. "This ship was supposed to be your grave." Elias glanced toward the command deck. "Didn't work out?" "No." She smiled. "It became your command." He shook his head. "Our command." Her eyes softened. She kissed him. There was no ceremony. No audience. Only the quiet hum of the warship around them and the stars beyond the glass. When they separated, Serah rested her forehead against his. "Captain? Yes? Where are we going?" Elias looked toward the growing fleet. "Forward." The Valkyr turned toward the stars. Behind it came ships from worlds that had once feared humanity. Ahead waited the survivors, who had spent decades hiding. Between them stood one human and one alien commander who had begun as enemies. The galaxy had expected humanity's final story to be about extinction. Instead, it became a story about survival, trust, and two people who chose each other when choosing was dangerous. And the man sent to die aboard an alien warship never left it. He simply became the reason it kept flying. For the first time, neither of them feared what the future might demand next.